Hello and welcome to episode 122 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by two people this evening. I'm joined by Kieran and Lauren Jewell. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how you
Hello.
doing? You okay?
Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on. We are here to talk about your son who has Hirschsprung's. And I guess I'll start with you first, Lauren. Would you like to take us through sort of the first moments, I guess?
Yeah, so it actually I had a horrible labour, but we won't go into that one. Um,
You can if you want. People have done before.
I don't think anyone wants to be bored by the horrible labour. Um, yeah, so he when he was first born, he was breastfed, so he had a really, really long feed to start with, and I think even me and the nurses were all like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" Like breastfed really well. And it all seemed to be going really smoothly. And then I had hit, so I think I had him, what time was it? 2:40? I
Yeah,
never remember. I was on those
2:40.
drugs at that point. Um, and it got to about 8 o'clock in the evening. And one of the nurses was like, "Has he fed anymore?" And I was just like, "No, he hasn't really asked for it. He's not hasn't cried or anything, so I haven't really offered it to him." And she was like, "Oh, okay, maybe try." And he just did not want it, was just not interested. So she was like, "Okay, we'll come around in again in like an hour or so, try again." So I think it was like a couple of hours later in the end, came round, just wasn't interested at all. So she was like, "Okay, let's try and like syringe some milk into him, try it that way, just to see if it he then takes that." And they managed to get some in, and he threw it up straight away. And it was like a greeny coloured sick. And I remember saying then to the midwife, I was like, "Is this normal? I know babies are sick, but green, like, is green normal?" And she was like, "Yeah, sometimes they swallow things when they come out. It's just one of those things." They were like, "We'll keep an eye on it, but it's probably nothing." So the next day he had like all his newborn checks. And they all were absolutely fine. He still hadn't really fed during the night, and every time he did have like anything syringed in, just threw it back up again. He did pass Napoleon, didn't
Yeah.
he? I think probably about 3 times he passed. So we were like, didn't no one obviously thought anything of it. But he just still was refusing milk. Didn't want it, didn't want it out of a bottle, didn't want it from me, didn't want it from a syringe. And any time then like nurses basically force fed it into him, he just yeah threw it back up. So I think it got to the what 2 days?
Second day.
Yeah, it was yeah the second day, and one of the nurses came around to do the check on him, and they were like, was it his heart
It's
rate?
breathing rate.
Oh, his breathing
Breathing
rate
rate.
wasn't right. So she was like, "We're just gonna take him off to do some checks and stuff." Um, Took him off to do them, and basically came back with, "We're gonna take him to NICU because he has what did they say to start with? They thought it was
These the suspected twisted bowel, wasn't
no,
it?
no,
Well,
what
not
was it
that
when they put him under the light? I can't think
Oh,
what it's called.
jaundice.
Jaundice. They put it down to
Really?
that to start with. Yeah, yeah. So they just said it was that. So they put him under the light. They kept an eye on him. Um, but then they were really concerned because his stomach was really hard and really big. Um, so we then got woken up on the third day, early hours of the morning, and the doctor was like, "We're going to rush him over to the hospital. We think he either has sepsis or a twisted bowel. So he, yeah, needs to have this emergency operation." So he went over, had that, obviously came back that it was absolutely fine. His bowel, from what they saw, looked absolutely fine. They did open surgery and they were like, they gave it all like a flush through, said everything was fine. So they were like, the only other thing we can put it down to is Hirschsprung's disease, um, which we were just like, what on earth is that? So because he obviously then had such a major surgery, he was in intensive care for 2 weeks. Um, And we were then shown, while they were waiting for the biopsies to come back, we were shown how to do washouts. But he was still passing poo as well at the same time. So they were actually having bets in intensive care, weren't they? The nurses.
They weren't exchanging money or anything like that. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't that
I was just
official.
thinking there
It
wasn't
wasn't a
some illegal
bookies.
gambling ring going on, was there?
Yeah, yeah. They were having bets about whether or not he had Hirschsprung's disease or how bad it was, because they were like, he's pooing normally. Like he was then back feeding again when we were doing the washouts, he was then feeding and everything. So they were just like, I think one of the nurses just turned around and were like, I think she was just like, it's really weird. If this is Hirschsprung's disease, it's obviously a really mild case of it, basically. Um, so 2 weeks later, it came back from the biopsies that it was Hirschsprung's disease. So we carried on with the bowel washouts. So we were doing them daily, and he seemed to be doing really well, didn't he? He was still passing, so he'd still pass throughout the day. Poo without us doing the washouts, he was still passing poo. Yeah, just seemed to be doing really well. He then had his big operation um, in the
It was December,
December.
to December 23.
Yeah. And they thought that was going to be really straightforward because obviously he seemed quite straightforward. They thought they were going to be able to remove the small bit of bowel that they thought probably had it. Um, and that was going to be it. And it was the longest day, as they always are. And it got to, I think it was probably about 5:30 in the evening, wasn't
Yeah, it went in about
it?
8:30, something like
8:30,
that.
yeah. And the surgeon came around and she was like, he's got a stoma. And we were just like, oh, okay. Because they'd always said to us a stoma can happen, but it's rare, obviously, because of how he's coping. He probably won't come out with one. So we were then like, oh, okay, like that was a big shock. They were like, he's obviously got it worse than we first thought. So it's obviously a lot higher up. So they were like, we've given him a stoma and we'll just have to monitor how he goes. Um, and then we had bouts then from then of just illness, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I think it was the 2024. It was May, June, no, April, May, July. We were admitted like 3 times within those months to, like, I think he had like stomach bugs or just viruses that just really badly affected his bowels. So they ended up pushing back the big operation because they were like, he needs to be well, he needs to be well enough, and he needs to be gaining weight before we can even think about doing the big operation. Um, so they waited until June of last year, and he actually had the whole of his large bowel removed and 16 centimeters of his
16,
small
yeah.
bowel. And he's had his ileostomy moved, like obviously higher up into the small bowel. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. What fascinates me just first about that story is that they suspected possible Hirschsprungs. And
yeah,
then am I right in saying that ended up being total colonic?
yes,
Yeah. So
yeah,
they were, because of he was pooing, the washouts were all going really well, and they basically said everything we were doing and everything that he was doing himself was a sign that maybe he doesn't even have Hirschsprung's. They were kind of like, it could be, but without the biopsy results, it might not be. So, you know, who knows at the moment? And that's why they were like so unsure, making kind of, they were having a bit of a laugh at us, they could tell we were quite stressed at that situation. And they were like, oh, some of us think it is, some of us don't think it is, that kind of stuff. And then when it came back, it was, we were like, oh, everyone was like shocked. Even the guys that were saying, "Oh, yeah, we think it's Hirschsprung's," they were shocked to find out it was also as high up in the bowel as it was. It didn't make any sense. which I think is probably a theme with Hirschsprung. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm 120 episodes in. I still got no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean I mean, because obviously the meconium was passed and was still pooing.
Yeah,
I was convinced by your story that it was going to be something like ultra short segment or
yeah,
short segment or something where it's I don't want to say not as serious, but not as
Know
effective.
what you mean, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's yeah, I think that's
But I,
incredible.
I do think still even to this day, like our surgeon and all of our surgical team are still like it's baffling because he was pooing by himself. Like he was doing so well with just the washouts. And you look back and you're like, well, we were doing the washouts fine once a day, but you just think, were we getting all the way up to the small bowel? Probably not. So it's yeah, it's fascinating. But yeah. Yeah,
That's incredible. And when it comes to the operations, I know you said that it was a really long day, and I
yeah.
imagine it is. I've been lucky enough for my 10 surgeries to be asleep for all of them. So I don't know what it's like to be sort of waiting, but what do you kind of do in that time that sort of to
I
pass
have
the
to admit,
time?
the first operation, we were just both an absolute wreck. So I think we went for like a
But
half an hour walk, didn't we, on the first operation he ever had? And then we sat in the room just waiting the whole day. And it was the last operation he had. We were like, we need to do better because you end up going insane. Like, you end up just sitting there being like, well, it's been so long now. Like, why is he not out? What's going on? Has something happened? And obviously, there's no communication when he's under either. So, yeah, we actually, the last operation was longer. So, he was actually under in June of last year, he was actually under from about 8:30 in the morning until, what was it, 7:30 in the evening.
yeah, I
It
think
was
so.
a really, really long one last time. But we learnt from the big operation he had, and we actually spent probably about half the day out. We went and had some lunch and a drink, and we were like, do you know what? He's in
Hey,
good hands.
it
Let's
was a
just,
soft drink. I want to
yeah.
clarify
You
that.
didn't
It
have three
wasn't.
I
lagers
did
and
feel like a
stumble back in.
large, I did feel like a large glass of wine, but knowing I was going to be in hospital for probably about a week, 2 weeks afterwards, I was like, I probably shouldn't. But yeah, they are such long days, such long days.
Yeah, I can imagine. I just can't think what you do because I mean you have to I guess you can't take your mind off it, but you try to if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I don't know.
We're really lucky. Like we live about 10-minute drive from Southampton General Hospital, so we like a lot of people don't have that luxury of being able to come home. Like obviously people stay in the Ronald McDonald houses and stuff like that. We're really lucky that we live down the road, but even still, we were like, yeah, we're not going to go home. We'll just stay around the hospital. And I mean, it's really morbid at Southampton Hospital. There's a cemetery directly outside. And yeah, I know you drive past it on the way to the car park,
But we've spent many a times
and
just walking around.
it's where my great grandparents are in there. So I used to visit there quite a lot with my grandparents. So at one point we were like, oh, we'll find their grave and put that kind of stuff. And then we were like, oh, that's killed 10 minutes. Right now, what do we
Yeah.
do? We'll walk to the park, and it's right. That's another 10 minutes. Right, what should we do now? So yeah, we just spend a lot of money in Costa, to be honest.
Yeah, well, good for their business, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really strange though, because I was actually having this discussion with someone the other day, a parent, and I was saying that you just become desensitized to it because I feel like he's had loads of like mini procedures while he's been under anaesthetic as well. Um, and the first couple of operations, obviously the one as a baby and the one that he had in the December, we were just, yeah, awful when he first went under. But the last one that he had in June, even though I knew it was going to be a much bigger surgery, like there was almost nothing. Like obviously I was worried, but there was no tears there. And I think you almost, yeah, I think you just become desensitized to it because you're like, yeah, just get on with it.
But also he obviously that much older. So if you're in the waiting room getting upset or nervous and stuff like that, you're kind of then going to stress him out as well. Especially like last year when he would have been or nearly 2.
Yeah.
I think if we would have been stressing out or not treating it like a normal day,
Yeah.
he'd have started stressing out and it would have made him worse as well. So you kind of put on a bit of a brave face, and Lauren's definitely downplaying that. Like we definitely to say it was like, oh, it was once he'd gone in, there was definitely a little bit of but then
But not half as
but
bad as
the
it was
difference
at the
as well, that was
start.
in June, so the weather's a bit nice to go for a walk. The one before that was in December, so you're a little bit more limited. So if yeah, it makes any difference, the sun being out, going for a walk around the common in
Yeah.
Southampton and stuff like that, and us forcing ourselves to leave the hospital
Yeah.
and the immediate area, that was trial and error, but definitely learned that lesson.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point there. I think weather would make a huge difference, whether the operation's in the summer or whether it's in the winter. I
Yeah.
think just that getting out, getting fresh air
Yeah.
can be, can be really helpful. So
And
I think
even
you're
for
absolutely right.
him, yeah, like even for him when he was discharged, just being able to, because obviously they're cooped up, aren't they, in like the rooms or whatever for so long. So it was actually really nice in June of last year being able to just be like, right, we've been discharged. Let's just go home and actually get in the garden, like actually get some fresh air, like. And I think that makes the world of difference, doesn't it, to recovery as well?
Huge. Yeah, absolutely. You made a point there, Laura, when you said that he came back with a stoma that you weren't kind of expecting.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of like warning, or did they say, "Oh, this may possibly happen," or whatnot?
Yeah, so just before he went under, obviously they go through the whole procedure and everything. And they did say then, look, there is a possibility he could come out with a stoma. Um, Obviously it probably won't happen, but there is that possibility. Um, but I think everyone was just so unaware of how bad it actually was.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they because I mean I guess you have to sign forms and whatnot, and it says, "Oh,
Yeah,
this may happen. They may have a stoma. They may do this and that and the other." But yeah, I guess when you're not quite expecting, because I've spoken to mothers before when they aren't expecting their child to have a stoma,
yeah,
and then they appear with a stoma, and you think, right, okay, now, as well as having to talk about, Hirschsprungs and get to grips with Hirschsprungs, it's then also being a stoma parent, I guess, is the
Yeah.
is the
I
term.
mean,
Um,
yeah,
it brings along another set of, things to learn, I guess.
yeah,
we were really it sounds really strange, but like before the surgery, because we were like, oh, it's going to be a small procedure. His pull through is going to be really successful. It's going to be, he's going to be mostly intact, all that kind of stuff. And it was probably my fault. I like to kind of go, oh, this is the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. Let's aim for somewhere in the middle, or best case, let's aim for that. And I think I remember saying to you, oh, worst case scenario is a stoma, which isn't the end of the world, but that's realistically that's the worst case scenario. And then when he came out of the stoma, instantly went, oh, that's worst case scenario. Oh no. And we kind of had that little moment where we kind of didn't know what to do. But the best thing that could have happened, especially obviously because I can't stay the whole time, so I'll leave at 8 o'clock. And you made friends with the woman, the lady across from you, whose son also is about the same age as Freddie, isn't he?
I think he's about 6 months older.
Slightly older, and he had a stoma. And she noticed that you were a bit upset, a bit
Yeah.
nervous, stuff like that. And she straight away said, come over here, have a look. And the
And she
next
like showed us the stoma that looked healthy, that had been there since he was like near enough to us.
he had a similar medical, but not Hirschsprung, but like a similar bowel like problem. And the next day when I was back in, her and her husband did a bag change and just showed us everything. And they said, oh, and we remember we say this all the time. They said to us, oh, you will never want to lose that stoma. You'll love it. It looks scary now, but you'll be all over it. It's like you'll be unbelievably good at stomas within like a month. So don't worry about it. And you're still in contact, aren't
Yeah,
you, and stuff.
yeah,
And I think that parent instantly squashing that concern, like immediately squashing it and checking on you and stuff like
yeah.
that, I think instantly alleviated any stress about it.
Because they do look scary, don't they? To start
Yeah.
with, you're like, oh wow, okay. Like I'd never actually seen a stoma before, so to then see one on my 4-month-old son, I was like, okay, like what on earth? What on earth do we do? So actually, and once it's obviously first been made, the whole area, like bless him, his whole stomach just looked so sore. So obviously seeing it on our friend's little boy, it was actually really nice to be like, oh, okay, like it actually isn't that scary. Like that's been there for a very long time and it looks okay.
Yeah. I mean that's God, that's so useful. I can't think of the amount of parents who would have loved that situation or that support or that help
Yeah,
um straight away. Because again, like you said, you, I mean, we talked a little bit off air about people. Obviously, if you mention the word Hirschsprungs, 99% of people wouldn't have a clue. I think a lot of people wouldn't have a clue if you mentioned the word stoma as well.
yeah,
And I think what is it, I think 1 in 200, which I think is quite a lot. People
yeah,
have a stoma. I think that's quite
yeah,
a lot, but I still think a lot of people wouldn't. And there's obviously loads of different types of stomas. There's sort of like the really small aces, there's the ileostomy and whatnot. But I still think, and even though if people know what a stoma is, stoma care, I'm guessing, is completely different to just seeing a stoma, I guess.
yeah,
It honestly, it is crazy because like we just assumed, oh, he's got a stoma, and obviously once the lady opposite us had gone through everything with us and spoke to us, and the surgical team have been brilliant, and the stoma nurses in this area have been brilliant as well. We were like, oh, we've really got the hang of this. Like, we're really like in our own arrogance, we're unbelievable with stomas. This is great. And then he had the new stoma put in following the surgery last year. And everything we knew about the previous stoma was a complete waste of time. And we're like, how can it be so different? Like, I understand the output being different, but just the behavior of a stoma is so strange, and it's just it still blows our mind now.
yeah,
Like we
yeah,
can't get our head around it, to be honest. But we're definitely on the right path, and Freddie's growing up with it, which he's used to it, so he doesn't think like a great deal of it now. But yeah, it's just so weird. I don't understand. Bowels are the strangest things. Like I didn't know anything. Honestly, I thought a bowel and an intestine were different things until Freddie was born. Turns out they're not.
No, but again, like, why would you have to learn that?
yeah,
Yeah,
You don't. Again, there's this always kind of um, I have so much admiration for parents of children who have any chronic illness, but especially Hirschsprung's, because you have to learn so much. You haven't got a choice.
yeah,
You have to. You're suddenly from a few, well, matter of weeks and maybe even days previous, expecting, normal
yeah,
birth, normal
yeah,
pregnancy. What, because that's the other thing with Hirschsprung's. Again, most of the time, there's a completely normal pregnancy, so you wouldn't notice, it doesn't tend to show up in there unless you have genetic testing. But again, that's hit and miss and whatnot. But to then having to go right from then to now we have to learn all about Hirschsprungs, now we have to learn all about stomas, now we have to learn about pull-throughs. When I know you mentioned that there were a couple of conditions like twisted bowel were mentioned previously to that, and then they mentioned Hirschsprungs. Sometimes I've heard people say to parents, "Oh, don't Google it." Was was that said to
I
you?
think it
And did
was.
you Google it?
oh,
Yeah,
immediately.
Exactly, everyone
I,
does.
yeah,
I Googled it immediately and then realized that I'd spelt it wrong and nothing underneath it even came close. And I don't know if that's a reflection of me or of how difficult the word is to spell.
Oh, it's the word.
I'll go with that. I'll go
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
it's the word.
But I think, yeah, immediately we Googled it, and then we were the real difficult thing was obviously where he was in intensive care, we were coming home. So I say it's down the road. We're really lucky that we're that fortunate it's down the road, but obviously still not very nice leaving little one in the hospital. And you come home and I mean you pestered, well, I think we pestered the nurses
yeah,
like with phone calls all night to see if he's all right. And but we'd come home and then we'd be completely separated from the situation by being obviously in a different building. And then all we're doing is just scrolling through our phones,
searching Hirschsprung's
searching
disease.
Hirschsprung disease. And the funny, and it's a joke I make to Laura all the time, is I've never known Lauren to read academic journals ever. I think if I'd suggested this to her 5 years ago, she'd have laughed in my face and
Yeah,
told me to shut up.
yeah,
And the fact that she's now reading journals from around the world,
yeah,
I caught her on Google Scholar not so long ago, and I was like, "What are you doing?" It's completely blowing my mind that she's doing this kind of research. It's just really funny how it just yeah, it just changes everything. Like you find out this one thing and then you go on an absolute deep dive. And I think my Instagram algorithm for a long time was completely corrupted with Hirschsprung's disease.
But I have to admit that is one thing that, especially for me, and I think you would feel the same, the social media side of things massively got me through. Like seeing the amazing stories that you see on Facebook, like I'm part of the Hirschsprung's pages, and seeing the really positive stories, and even like from your podcast and seeing things on Instagram, and you see really like reassuring things, and you're like, okay, this is going to be okay. Everything is going to be fine.
Yeah,
And so I really believe social media got us through massively, 'cause the questions that I've asked on there before,
yeah.
because it is so rare, isn't it?
It's rare that
So
social media is productive, but
yeah,
it's nice that it is.
Yeah, yeah. I
he,
mean,
he's had one bout of
Enterocolitis.
enterocolitis, and I think you almost get like mum instinct. Like I said to you straight away, didn't I? I was like, this doesn't feel right. I feel like we need to go to hospital. And you were like, no, no, let's just give it until tomorrow and
Yeah,
see how it goes. So basically, he'd gone the whole day without eating. He literally full on, which is not like Freddie. He full on refused to eat the whole day. Um, just he just wasn't himself. He had a temperature, just wasn't 100%. We put him to bed. His stone was absolutely fine. Put him to bed, and I think it was about 10 o'clock. He literally vomited up just liquid, and I was like, "We're taking him to hospital now." He was like, "Let's just give him until the morning." I was like, "No, we are taking him to hospital now." And yeah, he had enterocolitis, and but I think I actually put something on one of the Facebook pages
yeah, he did.
that day saying, is this normal? What's other people's opinions? And so many people were like, keep an eye on him. If it gets worse, definitely take him to A&E. And it is so helpful, so helpful.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. I think social media gets a bad rap sometimes for stuff, and obviously there's tons of stuff on there that's horrific and awful and rubbish
yeah,
and
of course.
whatever. But there's a lot of stuff on there, and I guess it depends. It's social media is everything. It's the very best, the very worst, and everything in between. But
Yeah,
there's some fantastic people on there who are so helpful. I know we talked a little bit about Georgina and
yeah,
how helpful she is, and she's done
Yeah,
her website now, hirschsprungsdisease.co.uk,
yeah,
which is yeah full of just again something that didn't exist a few years ago is now out there, and I think she's brilliant. And there are so many others who, just when you think, well, what's wrong? I don't know what's wrong, but I know something's wrong.
yeah,
mm,
And you go, right, well, I'll see, if anybody else has got this.
yeah,
And more often than not, you aren't the only one who has experienced that before, or
yeah,
have a child that's experienced that before.
yeah,
But I'd definitely, to your point as well, go along with mum's instinct. Absolutely. The amount of people. I don't know about dad's instinct, Kieran. I don't know about
nah,
that.
I,
I don't
I
know if
was
that
willing to just
exists.
leave him to the morning. He was fine in my eyes.
But definitely, definitely, a mum's instinct.
yeah,
I wholeheartedly support because and it's like you say, I know something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but I know something's wrong.
yeah,
And 99% of the time, you're right.
yeah,
I think. I think. So I think that's huge. Um, but I guess I know we sort of sidetracked a little bit from the story, but
that's
whereabouts did we get up to?
it.
Had surgery,
Yeah,
um, and I think that was the point where we stopped. I think so. After the surgery, I know he's had three surgeries. Is that correct?
Yeah, so he had the one as a baby, he had one at 4 months, and he had the one in June of last year. So he's had three surgeries. He currently has the ileostomy, um, which we love. However, because the bit of bowel now between the ileostomy, so he's got a loop stoma. So the bit of bowel between the ileostomy and his bum is obviously healthy now. It's actually healthy bowel. So he actually passes from his bum as well. So it will sometimes overflow And obviously his bowel produces mucus as well. So yeah, it overflows, and we sometimes get a pooey nappy as well, which is yeah, fun because we never had the stone that he had at 4 months. We never had poo then in the nappy from that 4 months until
Mm.
June of last year. Other than when he had enterocolitis, nothing came out of there. So, um, yeah, having poo back in a nappy is a bit of a oh wow, what do we do?
Mm.
We actually have to clean his butt.
It's really
Um,
strange. Like I would kind of laugh at like Freddie's friends' dads and friends of mine that've got kids and stuff. I would just kind of laugh and go, well, I don't have to do pooey nappies. I
Yeah.
still don't think I've had to change more than 10 pooey nappies in my life. Which is crazy when I've got a potentially well, potentially it's a 3-year-old in a few months, and I was giving it the big one, so I don't have to do pooey nappies, and now I'm emptying a bag and a pooey nappy at the same time. So all of a sudden, I think probably me being a bit giving it the big one has now actually turned around and bitten me on the backside a bit. So, but it's yeah, he poos out his bum and out of his bag. We have noticed he can fart from his bum and from his stoma at the same time, which
Amazing.
I'm
yeah.
really impressed with. Like, genuinely impressed with that.
He thinks
Oh
it's
yeah.
really funny as well. He likes
Yeah.
to tell us which one the noise came from. He thinks
Yeah.
that's quite a fun game. So yeah.
But these aren't games that were in ever any of the books or YouTube
No,
videos I read about or watched about parenting, and that they never mentioned that one. So that's
strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strange they didn't
it,
mention that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is funny. It is like say the stoma we in a really funny way as that mum opposite in the hospital after a second surgery said, "Oh, you'll love it. We absolutely love it." Um,
And it gives him the life he has now. I mean, he, seeing as he does pass poo through now, it is really liquidy, and it does give him a really, really bad nappy rash. So we tried out a new product from the hospital in January because it was really, really bad to the point where every time we were wiping his bum, he was just screaming. So they gave us this, I think it's called Cavalon. It's like a stick. Have you ever heard of it? And it
I have,
basically,
yes, I
yeah,
have.
and they were like, you need to hold his bum cheeks apart for at least 90 seconds because otherwise his bum will stick together. So we held it apart for way longer
like
than
3 minutes,
90
like
seconds. Like we would
stupid length of
go
time.
before bed, put his nappy on, put him to bed, woke up the next morning, tried to pull his nappy off, nappy wouldn't come off without really tugging it. We were like, okay. And then we got the nappy off and his bum was completely stuck together. We were like, oh, okay, this is a new one. So yeah, we've tried all sorts, but yeah, his bum does still get really sore. So we love stoma. We would ideally like to keep the stoma just because he lives such a normal life with it. And because obviously he doesn't have much bowel, we know that he probably wouldn't be able to have much control over it. So yeah, we are for the stoma. We're in chats with our surgeon about like where we go from now. And we actually did have a second opinion from Older Hay as well, just to discuss everything, and they were really helpful as well. So, yeah, at the moment, we're just going to keep riding the wave with the stoma and just see how he gets on. I think in our heads, in an ideal world, it would be nice for him to keep what he's got now until he's at an age where he can decide, actually, I want to make this stoma permanent, or no, I want
Yeah,
to
he
get
can
rid of
so
the
he can
stoma and
yeah
yeah,
test.
try and yeah, give it a go. Um, so I think that would be the ideal route, really, from now. But yeah,
No, good. I think that's the other good thing. You have options,
yeah,
and I think again, I'm not sure of back in the day, but sort of now there are a lot of people who I talk to have children with either long segment or total colonic that say actually the stoma kind of works for us,
yeah,
and stomas are not this sort of big scary thing that you've never seen before now. There are so many people for not just Hirschsprungs, but for a multitude of different conditions have stomas, and they're so prominent, and people don't worry so much about the bags and this and that and the other, and they are a lot more. visible now,
Yeah,
so having a stoma, and thinking, oh, I'm going to be, the only one in the world with a stoma is just not is not something anymore. So I think there are a lot of people, and again, it's very much each to their own. But I have seen a lot of people with longer segment Hirschsprung saying, actually, we're going to keep the stoma now. But yeah, but I think that's an interesting one. Really, really interesting. I'll be fascinated to know, sort of in a few years and well, months and years, to see, you know, how Freddie gets on, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be. I
I
mean,
think we just want him to be able to live a normal life and be able to go to school and I think with the stoma he can like yeah, sorry I chipped in over what you were about to
no, I
say.
was going to say something very similar. I
Yeah,
think it's like we found. I mean, both of us actually didn't know about stomas until Adele Roberts. It's Adele Roberts, isn't it?
Oh,
The
yes,
radio
yes.
DJ. Like she was in the marathons and stuff like that. So that's actually probably the first time we've really kind of been like, oh, what's that? And noticed it. And then not so long later, we're having a child, and then we'll end up with a stoma. And it's kind of it was nice having, oh, we know there are people that have got these. Obviously, I believe hers was for bowel cancer. I might be wrong.
I
Um,
think you're right. I
but
think
like
so.
obviously different reasons, and everyone, when you look online, everyone, like not everyone, but people got different reasons for it. So some people have like, you know, Crohn's and some other bits and bobs and stuff. And it's interesting hearing how those guys have got stomas and why they've got, and it's kind of like a real, I don't know, it's a really cool like community of people with stomas, and it's just like a really strange way for everyone to be like a big group of people being brought together, but it's a really nice way, if that makes sense. Like it's a no one expected this reason. Like, if you're a football fan, you'll be with football people, that kind of stuff. But with stomas, everyone's together. And I've already done the research. There's a Great Britain stoma rugby team, so Fred will be
There
absolutely
is.
fine.
Yes.
So I've already done the research for him. He'll be all right.
You've already got him trained.
Yeah, exactly. You've got
yeah,
all pathed out for him.
But I think you're absolutely right. It's so much more prevalent than it was. I think back to when I had not my first one, but my second one. Going back over 20 years now. I didn't know anyone with a stoma. I didn't even mention it to anyone because I thought, well, nobody will know. Nobody will know what on earth I'm talking about. But there's so many people now and not just people who just have a stoma and live with a stoma, but achieve with a stoma as well. Like you said, with the rugby team, like Adele Roberts. These people who do marathons, do Ironmans, do rugby, do, everything and anything.
yeah,
And I guess that kind of leads on to my last question, which I know you've spoken about medically for Freddie, what's sort of coming up potentially in the future, maybe, maybe not. But sort of non-medically, and I'll ask sort of both of you on this one. I guess apart from sort of just sort of living a normal, happy life, but what else would you like for Freddie in the future?
I think like so an issue we've had really, I think really recently, maybe this side of Christmas, this New Year, um, he got really scared, didn't he? So we've actually been really lucky with these bags that we've actually had no, or maybe very few leaks or anything issues like that. But it just so happened one day it was kind of peeling off. He's 2 years old. He wants to pull the bag off, so we kind of it was coming off, and we thought, oh, we're gonna have a shower anyway. We'll shower you without the bag on. Normally we shower with the bag on because we've been a bit scarred. When he was about 18 months old, he decided to grab his stoma,
and can't
and
pull it off.
the shower tray looked a bit like a murder scene. And ever since that, we've been a bit like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We'll just keep the bag on. Means well, and by doing that, we were like, oh, we'll keep it that way. So recently, obviously, the bag came off, and we thought, oh, we'll just leave it off. He'll shower him about it. And he really panicked. He saw it and just freaked out and was crying and just really got really scared. And we were a little bit like kind of taken aback by it, and we just assumed he'd be fine. But we thought about it, he hasn't really seen his stoma, and that sounds really silly, but
It's normally tucked inside the
yeah,
bag,
because either in
isn't
the
it?
Yeah,
bag
why
or
would he see it?
Yeah,
exactly. And when we do bag changes, we rely heavily on YouTube and Spider-Man or something like that to keep him occupied, just because it keeps him still. And so he doesn't often look down at it. He just kind of lays there, lets us do what we need to do, and then he's all right. And then he gets up and runs away. So he kind of stood in the mirror and freaked out. So what we've really tried is to get him used to his stoma. So we've named it Red. He can't say many words, so we thought learn some colours, why not? So we'll do red. And one of your friends it was really nice and made like a storyboard kind of thing about his stoma as well, he really likes, doesn't it? It's got pictures of him and the dogs, our dogs in it, and
Yeah.
he really loves that, and that's really nice as well. And he just seems a lot more since we've really put consciously done it. We've never like hidden away from it or been embarrassed by anything like that. But we've always just been there. We've made more of an effort to like make him aware of it. And now, when he goes swimming, he shows everyone his stoma. He almost looks annoyed when other people don't have one. So stuff
Oh,
like that.
yeah,
So he's
they're not
discriminating
special.
against non-stoma people. But I think like long term, we just want him to be completely comfortable with what he's got. To answer your question, like he was very nervous and very, it was actually really unsettling for us to see that he was so scared of it. And obviously, it's his body. He shouldn't be scared of it because that bag is a part of him and it's an important part of his health as well, which is, also important, well, very important, obviously. So, yeah, I think just for him to be really comfortable in his own body and just be like, I've got a stoma, but it doesn't really matter. I don't really care. It's there, and I'll move on. Obviously, he's got medical things, and we're overcoming them slowly. Like with he's dairy intolerant, so you know not having dairy, and he's got to learn not to put random toys and lick windows and stuff like that, put things in his mouth because then he gets ill. So it's that kind of stuff. We just want to be really happy with it, and
Yeah.
to be honest, I think he is. I think he is much better now. He's really we if he's going to keep a stoma long term, obviously we've read a lot of stuff about people having mental health problems with it because obviously it can be a real taboo for people, and that's completely understandable. But because obviously he's growing up knowing no different, I don't want him to. It would be easier for him than going from no stoma to stoma as an adult or a teenager. So we just want him to be happy with that, and to be as Laura said, whatever normal is, we want him to try and maintain a normal life and not have any barriers. He doesn't have to use public toilets too often, which is a result.
That's handy.
So yeah, I think that's what I'd say
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, I think I would agree. I just, yeah, want him to be able to anything he wants to do. I want him to be able to do it. And this is another reason we're so for his stoma. He absolutely loves swimming. He started swimming when he was probably about, what was he? I think he was about 8 weeks.
It was
We
once his
came,
first scars had healed up and
yeah,
he was allowed to. He was in the pool like immediately.
and it's something we've done every week since then. And that's something that I look back at and I'm like, well, actually, if he doesn't have his stoma, will he feel confident enough to go swimming if he can't control his bowels? So it's little things like that. He loves swimming. I want him to be able to just do everything he wants to do and everything he enjoys doing. Um, which, yeah, with the stoma, we know he can.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so, so much, both of you, for joining me. It's been fascinating to hear Freddie's story and your thoughts on it and thoughts on stomas as well. It's just fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And I wish all three of you, four of you with the dog, all the very, very best for everything that comes in the future. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
No,
you.
thank
Thanks
you so
for
much.